Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good. And welcome to the Ministry of Gun Control. Now, you're probably thinking for a split second, I'm doing a video on the Soviet Union back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. No, we're not. This is America. And it was breaking news today that the White House is now going to start this new government agency or government group. We're going to get into exactly what this is going to be in just a couple minutes. And I'm really excited about the show tonight because I have two awesome guests. They're both really good friends of mine. And I'm going to be joined in just a minute with my favorite state representative, Jamie Thompson, and my favorite constitutional attorney, my friend Katherine Henry. So we're going to bring them right in. But before we get started, I want to thank all of you for the many ways that you support the channel, all of you that support on Patreon, on Locals. Make sure you check the link down in the description. It's a censorship-free site. I'll be streaming there tomorrow night as well, where I can touch guns live, and also for all the channel members and those of you who leave generous super chats. And we're going to have three people talking tonight. We're going to cover as much ground as we can. I want them to do most of the talking, but if you guys have any important questions that you want the guests to answer, we will answer any super chats as we get a chance. So let me bring my two guests in here. We have Katherine and Jamie. How's it going?
Hi. Good.
So, Katherine, introduce yourself, even though you've already been on the channel more than once or twice.
I am constitutional attorney Katherine Henry, and I have to admit I'm a little bit exhausted today. I was working at my desk nonstop for many hours, but anyway, hopefully it won't come out in how I'm answering questions today. But I was I guess you could say my claim to fame was that when the governor of Michigan shut down the entire state illegally and unconstitutionally, I was the only attorney who stood up from day one and said she can't do it. And I was the only attorney who fought against her all the way into the Michigan Supreme Court, not getting paid a dime to do so, and telling the justices that she never had the authority to do what she did. And anyway, that's kind of my thing, is telling government officials they don't know what they're doing and they don't have the authority to do it.
Well, the government's overreaching here, so we'll talk about some of that in a minute. Jamie, how's it going? You want to tell people about you a little bit?
Good. I'm State Representative Jamie Thompson. That's the Michigan State House. And I represent the 28th District, which Micah is in my district. He lives in the city of Newport. So I cover southern Wayne County, which is mostly downriver, and northern Monroe County, Berlin Township, and Frenchtown Township. First year, I'm a freshman representative. No background in politics. I come from nursing, and I'm just a grandma who stood up and said enough is enough, and people heard my voice. So excited to be doing what I'm doing, fighting for everyone out there.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you. So today was the breaking news. There was a Rose Garden, I don't even know what you want to call it, fiasco, where the current former vice president, Joe Biden, said they're going to establish a first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And that's what I'm calling the Ministry of Gun Control. It's going to be overseen by Vice President Kamala Harris. We'll get into some of the details in a little bit, but there was a big press release where they're appointing a deputy director, deputy vice directors. Some of these titles they're giving them makes this sound a lot like it's going to be maybe a new government agency or something. It's just like really, really spooky and stuff. You guys want to hear Biden's speech real quick? Maybe we should just start that off so everyone's on the same page to hear what he said.
I don't want to have to lose IQ points again by listening to it, but I guess so.
Okay, it's like 25 minutes long. We're only going to listen to like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. This is the meat and potatoes part of it. And that way, anyone who's watching that doesn't know what we're talking about at all will have a chance to kind of lose some IQ points and get brought up or down to speed or whatever you want to call it. All right. Okay, if it's on the screen here. All right, we're going to listen to Biden for just about 2 minutes, guys, I promise.
Background checks require safe storage of firearms. It's time. Look, While we push for Congress to do more, we're going to centralize, accelerate, and intensify our work to save more lives more quickly. That's why this new White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention is designed to do. We'll drive and coordinate a government and a nationwide effort to reduce gun violence in America, and be overseen by an incredible vice president who understands this more than any vice president has. Oh, really? That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. She's been on the front lines of this her entire career as a prosecutor, as an attorney general, and as a United States Senator. Her deep experience will be invaluable for this office. And Steph, where's Steph Feldman? Steph, I want you to stand up, please. Steph Feldman has been working on this issue with me since Sandy Hook in 2012. Now, she was 13 years old when she joined me, but since 2012 will serve as director of the office. The office will have 4 primary responsibilities. First, to expedite the implementation of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act and the executive actions already announced. And I mean it. We're going to fully implement them. Second, coordinate more support for survivors, families, and communities affected by gun violence, including mental health care, financial assistance, the same way FEMA responds to natural disasters. Same way. And helps folks recover and rebuild and alter. Look, folks, shootings are the ultimate superstorm, ripping through communities. Third, identify new executive actions we can take within our legal authority to reduce gun violence. And fourth, expand our coalition of partners in states and cities across America, because we do have partners to get more. We need more state and local help to get these laws passed locally as well, and to strengthen our laws and give us more hope. Folks, to be clear.
Okay, so that's basically the 4 main focuses or criteria or authorities of this new office. And wow, who wants to start? I don't even know where to start with this.
Oh, I want to. So there's 2 things that stuck out to me when I watched the clip earlier, and then when we just watched it, and I think somebody, at least one other person, has commented in the chat about it. But the first thing I want to point out is that he totally admitted to being a pedophile and working with 13-year-olds for decades. That's gross. And
Yes.
even though that was a joke, I mean, come on, you're the man known for sniffing people. Let's not joke about certain things. And the other thing is, I think it's funny that he talked about her being the vice president with the most know-how about this particular subject area, but really the reasons why he said were her qualifications for knowing so much about this subject area sound like the reasons why she would just know more about every subject than anyone, certainly any other vice president, including that one that served with, was it Obama? Anyway,
the current former vice president.
I just thought it was hilarious because I thought of, well, yeah, she's going to know anything more, tons more than you know. And it's not to say I'm a fan of hers, but anyway, that's not even the subject matter, but it's so hard. And yeah, people are commenting that it sounds like he was drinking. It's really hard to listen to that. I mean, it's hard to listen to hear to wait for the unconstitutional statements that are about to come out of his mouth, because there's so much other garbage, pedophilia and drunk things, words that you're like, was that a word? Things like that. I don't know. That I just had to tag in on those things. That has nothing to do with my legal expertise.
Well, we'll get into some of the criteria in just a minute here. What's your gut reaction, Jamie?
That I feel like they're pulling on people's heartstrings and taking bad experiences and taking things that don't occur as frequently as they would like the general population to believe that they do occur, and taking someone's tragedy and turning it into coming after everyday people that aren't out doing that. And I also noticed it seemed like when he was standing there, the part you didn't show, I did watch it earlier, and he it was like he was told to be sad because he had this permanent scowl on his face and he kept kind of coughing and rubbing his nose, and he just looked like a very frail old man, like my grandfather who's passed away when he was 93. He just looked frail, so frail, someone that does not demand respect. And that again just breaks my heart as an American.
I agree, and he probably doesn't even know where he is. He says words like Vaticaf care and Shubidadash at a pressure. And look, it's fun to make fun of him, and I encourage all of you guys to do so. But here's the crappy part. This is supposedly the chief executive and supposedly the greatest country in the whole world. This man wields enormous power. And these federal agencies who all work for him and serve at his pleasure can ruin people's lives like instantly. So he's out there basically, the way I understand it, saying he's going to start a new office. I don't know what authority he would have to do that. We can talk about that in a second, Catherine. And he's actually appointing like deputy directors. When I hear that, that sounds very like ATF and CIA and FBI-ish. Those are the same titles that some of these executive law enforcement have. And he's basically coming through making threats directly against the Constitution and directly against all of the American people right now, right?
Now, I have a quick question, and I don't know, is anyone aware, because at one point in the speech, wasn't it mentioned that there was legislation that was initiated by a senator that opened the door to that? Is that true or false? Or did this just come from him on an executive level?
So here's what happens. I'll try to describe this briefly. I know we've talked about this before, Catherine, you and I on another stream, but you'll have a law that gets passed by Congress. Any plain, just common sense person from a fourth grader all the way up to a law scholar will read it and usually know what it says, know what it means when it comes to the main points. But what they'll do is they'll split hairs and take these executive agencies and they'll reinterpret what the law is supposed to actually say in their opinion. So yes, Congress did pass the Safer Communities bipartisan law last year. Shame on them, because 15 Republican senators came over with the Democrats to make it happen. And it did establish gun control. It did things like added funding to all of the states, basically bribe money to pass red flag laws. And also
But did it add a government entity? Did it add a department? Did it add some sort of task force or something?
That's the $1 million question. It did certain funding things. It changed background checks and longer delays for people under 21. It did a whole bunch of things. I've talked about that in the past, but it does not say anywhere in the law on its face. I think that'd be called prima facie, if I'm not mistaken. There's nothing in there that says we can create new agencies to now do all this wild and crazy stuff. What do you think, Catherine?
Well, so I'm a huge fan of big government. I think it's fabulous. Yeah. So government, yeah. So there's obviously the two main things wrong with it, right? There's the one aspect that, by executive order, which is what he's saying he's talking about is his executive actions. He's saying that he has the authority to he didn't really say a whole lot in the clip that we watched anyway, but just alluding to all these other executive actions and then getting all the local and state agencies on board to pass local and state legislation as well that does XYZ to curb gun control, violence, etc. So anyway, so you have the issue of the executive branch essentially functioning as a legislative branch, which is kind of a no-no because there's the first 3 articles of the Constitution are separate articles for a reason. And the only thing that executive orders are supposed to do is organize the inner workings of an executive branch, whether it's a state branch, a state level of government, a federal level of government, not organize the amount of insanity that goes on that then directly impacts the people and increases the amount of people within the executive branch that can trample the rights and freedoms of the American people. That's not what's meant by that. It's literally meant for, the housekeeping and logistical purposes of keeping the executive branch all in order, which never was intended to be, I don't even know, thousands, millions. I don't even know how many people are considered part of the executive branch of our federal government, but it's ugly and disgusting. And if no one person can list the job titles, let alone all the departments, let alone the job titles of all the people in those departments, let alone the names of the people that work in all of those positions, then that's perhaps too many to be considered part of the executive branch of government. So you have that side of things. And the other side, of course, is the Second Amendment. Now, he used the word, the concept of within the legal authority that we have, but never once mentioned the Constitution. Never once mentioned the concept of the Second Amendment or, any number of things. And how about the fact that basically in some respects, what he did is, it's at least on the same, train ride as what the Arizona governor did. And clearly that's a problem because she even said in her own statements, well, so, I think the question was asked of her. So do you really think that these measures, your executive order, is going to stop any of the criminals from taking any of these actions with guns? And she just said point blank, without skipping a beat, well, no, but it's going to send a message. Okay, so we're going to stop the law-abiding citizens, the good guys, from carrying guns. That's what you just said, because you said that's the only people that it's going to stop from doing anything, and it's not going to stop any of the criminals, and it's not going to change the fact that there's already way too many laws on the books to regulate guns, so it's not going to make us any safer. In fact, it's going to threaten our safety, because then the good guys are no longer able to defend themselves and others, which is guaranteed not only in the U.S. Constitution, but in almost every single state constitution across our country. Those are the two big problems that I see.
Did you, when you were watching it, when Kamala was speaking prior to him, did you see where she did mention the Second Amendment? Did you ever see part of that?
I didn't see her speak. I didn't see that part.
Did you, Micah?
Yes, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
She was talking about that beforehand, but it's always the Second Amendment, but even
Yeah,
though
she
it says,
said, yeah. We shouldn't be looking at it like a either or. We're not choosing the Second Amendment or choosing, the safety of children or the safety of families. We can do both. And we're big. I'm sorry. I have two really yappy dogs. So she said, Buddha, hush.
Well,
said,
no one with common sense likes gun control, even dogs. I mean, that's just.
My dogs are conservative. They'll whoop a liberal's cat's ass.
no, so they're trying to say this doesn't violate the Second Amendment, as they always do. And then to your point, Catherine, if I would have kept playing that clip just 5 more seconds, he would have literally said, but we know that this isn't going to be enough. So it always goes back to the same thing that the Democrats have been saying in Michigan this whole year. We're going to pass all this and do all this, but it still won't be enough. So we're just going to keep coming back for more and more, right?
Exactly. And it's all the pieces that work together. Exactly. I just, that's a really good point. Before the chat gets all crazy and scrolls away from me. And I don't know who this is. Maybe, well, obviously you're going to know who it is, but anyway, somebody says the courts will prove unconstitutionality too late. And so the thing about that comment, and it's probably not the way that this person meant it, but just the general message that I want to send across to people is, let's think about this. Let me give you an example. When I'm going to pick on him because, it's fun, but Matt DePerno, you guys probably know who that is. I know the two of you know who that is, but hopefully everybody in the chat does. He started off, I think, with the greatest of intentions and wanted to fight the freedom fight and fight the big bad government and whatever, right? He said to me in a phone call somewhere around December 11th, maybe, of 2020. He asked me to call him because my husband found him on Twitter and said, hey, you know, my whatever. Anyway, my wife knows about, you know, governments and courts trying to shut you down from, you know, gag orders and things like that. Anyway, so he was telling me about how this judge was trying to keep him from, and this is in his Antrim County audit, the election audit case. And the judge was ordering him simultaneously to turn over the audit information to the Michigan Attorney General and the Secretary of State, who are not even parties to the case, while simultaneously saying, and you cannot disclose the results of the audit to the public. Now, that's a gag order. It's inherently unconstitutional. There was no reason why he couldn't do that. It wasn't even property of the government to start with or anything like that. So it was just so many things totally wrong with that. And I was trying to brainstorm with him ways that he could, you know, claim that he was following along, but still getting word out there, et cetera. At any rate, when it boils down, I said to him, but you don't have to follow an unconstitutional order. And he said to me something that stuck with me, and a reason why I would not, one of the big reasons why I would not support him in his race for Attorney General in the state of Michigan. And that is, he said, but you have to follow an unconstitutional order until a higher court tells you you don't have to. And I said, says who? The Constitution makes it clear that it's the Constitution that is the supreme law of the land. It's no judge's particular interpretation. Even the whole United States Supreme Court, if it was a unanimous decision about something and it was obviously not constitutional, we don't have to follow what they say, because our oath, I am an oath, someone who's taken the oath. Jamie is someone who's taken the oath. I don't know about you two, AEDU, but I'm guessing, because you're a man who definitely acts like he's taken an oath. But at any rate, we have an oath to the Constitution, not to any justices or judges or presidents or governors or legislators or anybody else in the whole realm of government. It's not to the people or the offices. The oath is always and only ever to the Constitution. So that's what it should boil down to. So for anybody worrying about the court sorting it out, first of all, as an attorney who's still saying to people, don't give up, our country is great, and we just have to learn how to work together and take it back, one county at a time, one community at a time, one street, one house. What I'm doing here in the state of Florida, fighting back against my local government, one house at a time, if that's what it takes. But it's not something we should give up on. But at the same time, I'm saying to people, let's keep doing it and use the court system and use the legislature and use media and use whatever you can. Does that mean I believe in the media? Does that mean I believe in the legislature? No offense, Jamie, not all legislators are bad. But does that mean I believe in the legislature is capable of, as a whole, doing the right thing? Does that mean I believe in the court system, that it's going to come out right? No, I don't trust the court system. In fact, I would be willing to put money on the fact that a court is probably never going to determine fully and completely that whatever he's doing is just inherently unconstitutional right from the get-go. I would be willing to bet that. So anyway, I just saw that comment in there, and there's so many problems with us looking to the courts to solve the problems. We need to be willing to bring things to court. We need to be willing to fight, but we need to be willing to keep the fight going and not wait for a judge or a justice or a group of them to tell us when it's okay to utilize our God-given liberties.
Okay, so this makes me think of you, Jamie. So we have the three branches of government. I hope everybody knows that by now. If not, I want to make sure you guys do. We have an executive branch. This is executive overreach that we're seeing right now. The judicial, as Katherine just talked about. And now we have a member on the state level of the legislative branch. So you represent about 90,000 people or so in my district, Jamie. And we don't have a democracy. And I talk about this a lot on this channel. It's very important, because just a straight democracy, you inevitably end up with two wolves voting against one sheep on what's for dinner, and that's not good. But what we do have is a representative constitutional republic. And part of that is we send representatives to our state house, and we also send representatives to Congress. Now, in the Michigan Constitution, it says the legislature makes law. In the United States Constitution, it says Congress makes law. So they brought up state and local government. And he also said at the very beginning that he wants to centralize this. When I heard that word centralize, I just started going ding, 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 ding. So let's just say hypothetically, and it wouldn't surprise me if she did, if Governor Whitmer got on board with starting a Ministry of Gun Control in Michigan. But hold on a minute. She doesn't make laws. You're part of the legislature. What do you think about that from your standpoint with your public service, Jamie?
Well, it makes me furious because we all know that she is a very tyrannical governor and very thirsty for power. And she's unfortunately the perfect right governor to do something like that here in Michigan. She did it when, with the pandemic, with her overreach. She skirted around the system when all of her executive orders were ruled unconstitutional. And because in Michigan, they have the trifecta of the governor, the attorney general, and the secretary of state, the House and the Senate. I mean, what is that? What is the 5? I don't even know what that would be. It's greater than a trifecta. So yeah, we're in a position, unfortunately, in Michigan where we can't stop this fight and we can't stop speaking out against it because things can change. We saw that with some things that have changed here in the last few days. But no, I do very much believe that she would ride that train, and I could see that coming out of her. And I wonder why now? Why now does this come out? There's always purpose and there's always reason. If it's something they're trying to stop us from seeing that's happening because we're going to get all riled up, worried about this, and they're going to be doing something else over here. It always happens that way. Why? Number one, a year before a presidential election, when he's already very low in the polls, everything that's going on with Donald Trump, why now? I'd really like to hear people's thoughts on that because there's always a reason.
Well, I'm going to add one more thing to that. I'm frustrated right now because I live in a state that's getting overrun by tyranny on the executive level and the legislative level in most cases too. But here's the facts of the matter. We're supposed to have a government that's instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's how Thomas Jefferson said, and the founding fathers said government would work and where it gets its power from. I voted for you. The majority of the people that live in my hometown, in my area, voted for you, and you're representing us. You're the person that we see most fit to affect our safety and happiness. And to think to myself, now let's just not even pretend you're in the minority in the House right now. That's another issue, and we need to talk about that. But you're a legislator. I said, I want this woman to go there to prevent unconstitutional laws. I really don't want you to pass any new laws, by the way. We have too many. But to prevent, get rid of unconstitutional laws. And now all of a sudden he's saying, no, we're going to do this in a centralized fashion. And we're going to go through the states and localities. And if I could just be blunt about it, why the heck do I even have a state representative or senator anymore if they're going to do this? What do you think about that?
It's like, I just see an octopus with all of their arms. They're so, and each brain is doing its own thing. And it's when you were talking about, we serve at the pleasure of the people. And we're supposed to, as people, not even me as a representative, but as a Michigander, as an American citizen, I should be able to challenge my government. I should be able to speak out against my government. That is my right. But that only seems to be acceptable for the Democrats right now, because they can, you talk about when right to work was initiated in Michigan, Whitmer threw the doors to the Capitol open and let the unions flush in, and there was tear gas and all the tyranny that we saw in Lansing. That was okay. That doesn't get talked about. But, heaven forbid a Michigander stands in the Capitol with a long gun and says, you're not doing this. You're going to open up our state. You're not locking us down. We're done. then all of a sudden we're the ones that are insurrectionists and we're the ones that are, inhumane and disrespectful. The media has got it so bad that they can do worse things, and it's okay. And I know it's frustrating and it's driving everybody crazy, but I will tell you that there are good people in Lansing, my colleagues, that we are saying no, 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 no.
And I have met some good ones as well. And Katherine, when you were serving in local government, and we'll get back to I want to focus on local tonight if we can, even though this is a federal issue. So we need to focus on that, but we need to focus on local because that's where I believe we're most effective in winning this war. Now, Katherine, I've been to your local township that you used to live in, and you were an elected trustee of that township in Michigan before you moved. And you took an oath for that office, and you were there to protect and defend the Constitution of Michigan and the United States for people in your hometown, right? So
Yeah.
What does that mean for somebody who's a township trustee right now? And they're hearing him say that they're going to go to the state and local government to implement something like this.
It's, it's just the same as, the same thing for this subject at this time would be analogous to in 2020 when I was elected. I just have to give myself the shout out that I am the only person in U.S. history to be arrested and then elected on the same day. Yeah. Okay. So
It's true.
but I hashtag arrested then elected. But I served from November of 2020 until the day I moved down here. And we were serving at a time on a local township board. Now, mind you, the 7th largest township in Michigan. So some of you who are not watching from Michigan, who or live in the Detroit area and forget the whole rest of the state exists, keep in mind that we were in the Grand Rapids area and the 7th largest township. And we had, I want to say, 55,000 people in our township. So it was not small. It's not like some of the areas that I've lived in. It was a decent sized community, but we were the township until the first meeting that I got to serve in November of 2020 was they'd been going to the Zoom only meetings because the governor in one of her executive orders had said you can't have a local government meeting in person, that you have to do them by Zoom. And I called BS on that. And don't you know that what they decided to do was to send state police around to some of the smaller communities and bully them and tell them that they would be arrested if they continued to hold their meetings. Just holding them in person was breaking the law because they were violating these executive orders. And so, of course, those in that were other Republicans on the board with me were, that very first meeting that I was a part of, there were 4 of us there, enough for a quorum. But the other 3 schmucks decided that, but we can't be in person and have a meeting. And that's not what the executive order says. And I said, well, we didn't take an oath to an executive order. We took an oath to the Constitution, and we have to be face to face. And yeah, that means we might be facing having the Michigan State Police here. Does that mean we should cower in the corner and just do whatever the higher level of government tells us to do? No, it means I bring people like my good friend Jane Locke with her firearms, and then she could serve as my security to make sure that I'm not getting arrested again illegally and unconstitutionally just for holding a public meeting. But you do the right thing and you figure out how to do the right thing. And it's not going to be comfortable. None of those meetings were comfortable. I am pretty sure I made history when every single meeting that I was a part of then became 3.5, 4.5 hours long for a township, because I wasn't going to go along with all the unconstitutional and illegal garbage that they've been doing. So the same thing holds true here, that if there's this pressure now from state government, from, the trifecta that you were talking about, Jamie, there's the federal government and this new, governmental branch, whatever they're trying to make it be, all of this happening. and it's pressure to, have more gun control, and well, we don't want what's happened in East Lansing to happen everywhere else, and so we got to do this, this, and this. Well, it was already a gun-free zone, right?
Yep.
So maybe taking away guns in other places isn't going to stop the gun violence. I mean, let's look at Chicago. Clearly, that's the world's safest place to be because it has the world's strictest gun laws. So anyway, you got it as a local official, and hopefully some of you are watching this either live now or later. I'm talking right to you. If you are in government, state level, local level, whatever, if you live in a township that has 100 people in it and you're on the board, do the right thing. Make sure you have a pair of balls and you're willing to use them and sit there in person and face the people that you work for and make those tough decisions. Be willing to be the only one on that board, the only person who's going to stand out of the crowd and say, no, my oath says I'm not allowed, even if it sounds like a great idea, my oath says I'm not allowed to make a vote for that thing or against this thing or whatever the choice is. And I just want to give a shout out to Democrat Representative Karen Whitsett. I had the pleasure of speaking with her in 2020. I don't remember if I ever did a video with her or not, but at least had some phone calls with her, maybe in person. But she was in trouble with the party before. Mm-hmm. She got censured and reprimanded by the Michigan Democrat Party because she thanked President Trump for helping to basically make sure she had ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, whichever one it was. And she even had bipartisan support legislators, like Annette Glenn, I believe, was one of them, and some others who were writing letters to basically, hey, pharmacists and doctors, write these prescriptions. Who cares what these boards are saying? Licensing boards are saying in Michigan, do the right thing, save people's lives. And anyway, that's the kind of woman we're talking about. Do we always agree in ideology? Would she agree with us 100% if she was participating in this conversation right now? No. But I'd like to point out, though, that when we said that it seems to only work for Democrats, it only works for Democrats who stick with the pack because they are quick to cannibalize each other as best they can. And yet she's still standing. She keeps winning re-election after re-election. And she's in right downtown Detroit. So
is that her district? Because I serve on health policy with her, and I did not know her from Adam. I don't know how I had never saw any of the interviews that she was doing during that time where she thanked Donald Trump, got censored, so on and so forth. Well, when I was elected, right around Christmas time, I got a Christmas card, saying who she was. Congratulations for being elected from office. She sent it to, every 109 representative. And she said, I really work across the aisle. I believe in bipartisanship. You don't know me, but you will see this. Well, I thought, this is a woman. I Googled her and I saw all the stuff that she had done and how she thanked Donald Trump for speaking about, I think it was the hydroxychloroquine. So I'm like, man, this is a woman that I got to get to know. Like, I really have to get to know her. That was amazing that she stood up to her party. So here we roll now, and she stood up to her party again in health policy and literally and did not even blink an eyelash. Just said, I am not voting for these bills. I do not agree with them. I will not vote yes for them. And she has already been bashed and hammered so bad that it's unreal. And I did say she is an inspiration to all of us because, she stood up against the entire Democrat Party, against Whitmer, against Planned Parenthood, and said, and just, I know this is about guns. We talk about guns on this channel, but I know most of us being so conservatively minded and constitutionally minded, there's the Reproductive Health Act in Michigan that they're trying to get 11 bills passed that goes beyond what was presented in Proposition 3 that was supposed to have passed in November. Now, they would remove many of the safety regulations that are in place for abortion clinics to protect women. And it would also remove the 24-hour wait period to obtain an abortion, It will allow for partial birth abortion in Michigan. It would basically allow for abortion up to and possibly after birth because of the verbiage being so vague. There's something in there that could be not even knowing if it could have anything to do with consent of a parent because it talks about familial things. So anyway, this bill package comes up and Karen Whitsett says, I am for abortion. I am a Democrat. She actually said I was raped. I obtained an abortion. And that is something that I did not do lightly. And that does affect a woman mentally and physically for the rest of her life. And I am representing my district and I am saying I will not vote for Medicaid to pay for abortions for women that just want to have an abortion over and over and over again. That is not what that is there for. And we have senior citizens that are one prescription away from serious complications with their chronic conditions, so on and so forth. Yeah, if you want to Google Karen Whitsett, Planned Parenthood, they slammed her so bad. They said that she was a traitor. This is her number. Contact her. I wouldn't doubt it if they didn't strip her of her committees and try to recensor her again. But so I sent her a message, and I didn't want to push too hard, but I just said that she was an inspiration and thank you for following, your morals and your values. And she's a Christian woman. So she said, thank you for saying that. And then I thought, I'm going to push a little bit more. And I just said, I'm praying for you. And we have so many people praying for you, for God to protect you and for you to stand strong in what your decision you've made. And she said, thank you. I need it. Yeah, she needs it. So pray for Karen Whitsett because this will cause.
Let her know,
they
guys.
can't pass this.
Yeah, all these, Jamie, Angela Regas, even Karen Whitsett, who stands against us on so many other issues.
Stands against the Second Amendment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But when you have a state rep who's doing right, even if it's just on one issue or on one bill, reach out and let them know because they need that reinforcement. They need to know. They need to know where they're having support from. They need to know you're watching. They need to know you're paying attention. But when I mention people like Jamie here or Angela Regas, those are two examples of people who are working tirelessly on every issue, and it's exhausting. I mean, reach out if you're on the west side of Michigan. Shoot, if you live anywhere in the United States, reach out to my friend Joe Moss, who is a brand new county commissioner. He is now the chair of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, and they are doing remarkable things there and fighting tooth and nail. They've had so many lawsuits come against them for just following the law and following the Constitution, and it's ridiculous. And of course, the media is stacked against them and everything. So reach out to those people, remind them how important they are, because I know that it helps me when people reach out and tell me if I'm helping them, if I'm actually teaching them anything, if I'm empowering them to stand up and fight back. But all of these, on all these issues. So, and, don't, I wouldn't say reach out to Karen Whitsett and just be like, you're such a great state rep, period. I would say, thank you so much for speaking up on this particular set of bills or whatever the case may be. Because then she knows that she doesn't necessarily have the blanket support to continue doing all the other things that say might, make Biden smile.
Like when she voted for the 11 gun control bill package. So
yeah,
with her, and you guys talked about her quite a bit. I agree with you. If you have somebody, if you're in Michigan, it'd be maybe her on this issue, but wherever you guys live, have their back when they do what you're demanding them to do. I don't give Representative Whitsett an A grade. I still give her an F because I'm a single issue voter, and she did vote for every single gun control bill that was put in front of her. But as it ties into the Second Amendment, though, there could be a little ray of light because we are now seeing in this case, this was a huge big deal for the Democrats. It looks like it might be falling apart because we had another Democrat that voted pass, I believe. He passed his vote on that committee.
Because he's being held, he is being held by his feet to the floor by the Muslim community in his district. The Muslim men are standing up and saying, this goes against our faith, our morals, our values. You claim to be a Muslim, yet you're voting yes for this Elliot Larson. You're voting yes on partial birth abortion. And that man, Representative Farhat, was beside himself in health committee. He kept putting his head down. Oh, he was stressed out. Because he knew they were literally texting him. texting him in committee, don't mess around, don't play with us. And it draws people's attention, and you hold me to, as your representative, you let me know you're constantly checking in on me. You're supporting me when I need to support it, but you're also letting me know that you're going to hold me to the votes, as well as my husband. How many times has my husband told you?
Yes.
Yeah, let her take a vote. Let one of those votes go sideways if she can stay in Lansing.
Your husband Ron's awesome, and we're lucky that he's so involved in your office. We'll just say, I know he's not officially an aide, but he does a lot to help you with everything you're doing. I know that. So this is what I'm hearing, though. Hold on a minute. So when people do speak loud enough, when a community can get together on something, right now it happens to be, look, this isn't just like a pro-choice, pro-life debate, guys. Unfortunately, in Michigan, we already lost that debate. It's a pro-choice state, and no, this is the most radical 1% of anything you can think of that they're trying to cram down our throats even further. But people went up in arms about that enough, and they have one that is normally, and I don't know him probably as well as you do, Jamie, but I do follow most of the members of the House. He's normally a person that has quite a bit of bravado and is kind of outspoken and not really the type that would get nervous.
Right.
Saw the same thing you noted, trembling basically. Now you have the Democrat from Detroit voting no on some of this. I think the gun community needs to get involved a little more with this stuff, because
I agree with you, because
you know what I mean?
even with, I would hope and I pray that even by Representative Whitsett and the unsteadiness of Representative Farhat right now, even on a pass vote in a committee hearing, choosing not to take a side either way is huge for the very far left Democrats right now. So I would hope that would give other Democrats maybe a little strength to say, okay, because they've said over and over again, I have been outside of the Capitol, and I've told Micah this, there are some Democrats that are very moderate, and they'll be outside of the Capitol and they'll say, oh, I can't take these far left libtards. This is just driving me crazy. I just came here to get stuff done. Why is it got to be round and round and round, and hugging trees for this, and, changing pronouns for that? They don't support that, but they go along with their party because they've been told that they have to do what you're told, sit down and shut your mouth. And they want to. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this will give them some encouragement that, just this Black woman stood up and said enough's enough. Hopefully it'll give some of them some encouragement to do so as well with some other bills.
Right. I just have to say, Jane Locke, you weren't on here when you were supposed to be. I totally gave you a shout out and you didn't even hear any of it. So, I mean, come on now. Don't come late to the party, because then you miss having your name talked about. But obviously it was all bad things and we can't repeat it. But anyway, just had to say that because I noticed she jumped on. But
yes. So let's go back into this. I guess it's an executive action he's calling, but executive action and order are different. I think it was actually both. He used the word executive action, but from the official White House stationery, he's ordering this new department, if you will, this new office to be created. He's naming a director, deputy directors, assistant deputy directors. And they're going to expedite the Safer Communities Act and all of their executive actions that are coming out of it. But here's a big problem with that. First of all, I believe on its face, the Safer Communities Act is unconstitutional, because in the United States of America, the Constitution is supposed to be the supreme law of the land. And if you go by early Supreme Court case, for everyone who likes Supreme Court case precedent, Marbury v. Madison said all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution, those are void. But with that said, so the predicating law that they're deriving all this power from supposedly is unconstitutional. That should stop at cold stop. But for some reason, that's just since the Supreme Court hasn't ruled it against it, or a federal judge hasn't vacated it or anything like that, it's considered to be part of the law now by the people in Washington. But now they're going to come through and create, they've already tried about, we're up to about 6 different executive actions where orders where he's ordered the ATF to promulgate rules and regulations. And we're in the midst of one right now as we speak that's up for public comment period that basically says if anybody sells any guns for profit going forward, once this goes into place, that's only to register as an FFL and go through all the compliance just to sell a piece of lawfully owned property. That's one that right now is already on the table. Are you guys familiar with that one at all?
To
I
keep
am
up
not.
with all of the illegal and unconstitutional things that they're doing, it exhausts my brain.
Okay, so I attempt to keep up with all of them. But here's what I'm getting at. I could talk for 45 minutes to 2 hours. I do it every week and just name all of them right in a row that have happened just in the past year. And it's literally that nuts. But at the end of the day, can I ask you guys a core fundamental question? And you can't say pass, but you can talk about it for an hour if you want or 5 minutes. But
Oh boy.
when we live in a
Okay.
country that the Constitution is supposed to be the supreme law of the land.
No, is. Not supposed to. It is.
I'm saying supposed to because you'll see where I'm heading with this when I ask my question, okay? In the United States of America, it is the supreme law of the land.
Yes.
Okay? And wherever we are right now, it's supposed to be. Now, the Second Amendment, that's an amendment to the Constitution. That means it's part of the Constitution. It was written down in 1789, ratified in 1791. So the Second Amendment's been part of the supreme law of the United States of America for like 230 something years. So since it says shall not be infringed, and we not only have gun control laws, but we now have a new office or Ministry of Gun Control that is now going to promulgate just untold hundreds of executive orders, ATF rules that have full force and effective law. They can kick down your door of your house, people with guns, make sure your dog's okay. They shoot a lot of dogs. Okay. We've gotten to this point right now where he does this on broad TV, right in front of everyone, TV, national audience. But the supreme law of the United States says shall not be infringed. So what country do we live in right now? That's my question.
We still live in the United States. We live in a country where we have all these traitors and criminals that are violating the Constitution, violating their oath of office, trampling our God-given liberties. And it's about damn time that we all stand up and do our part to take our country back. I would never say that our country is just lost. If anybody who thinks this country is just gone and it's whatever, then get the hell out, go somewhere else, and let the rest of us who actually care enough to save this country be the ones here voting and making a difference and speaking and being the ones that are polled for whatever topic that polls are made for. So we live in the Constitution where we live in the United States where the Constitution is still the supreme law of the land. It has been, it always will be. And there's no, all these conspiracy theories about the Constitution not being a thing anymore, or that it's been set aside, or all this other garbage. Enough with the red herrings. Enough of trying to make argument where argument doesn't need to be. We have a great country, and we have the parameters set out by the Constitution that are not limits on the American people. The Constitution is a set of limits on the government, on state governments, on federal governments, on local governments, and state constitutions then in turn limit the state government, the local government, and sometimes turn around and limit the federal government if they're done properly. But it's about time that every single person stands up, and whether they've taken an oath of office or not, that they stand up and they fight back and they fight for that constitutionally protected God-given liberty and stop waiting for other people to do it. Whether you're a legislator, whether you're an attorney, a doctor, a farmer, a stay-at-home mom, whether you're retired, whether you're 17 years old, there's no excuse anymore. Stand up and do something now. Go to your local city council meetings or your county commission meetings, or go to your, if you live close enough to your state capital, then go in person to your state capitol meetings, your committee hearings, things like that. Look eye to eye in the people that are elected to represent you and tell them what you think needs to happen. Voice your concerns respectably. There still has to be decorum. You're not going to scream out in the middle of a committee hearing or something like that. But enough of the whole, well, this country's gone to shit, it's just awful. No, we live in the United States of America, where the Constitution is and always will be the supreme law of the land.
Thank you for that encouragement. What do you think, Jamie?
Well, geez, you gave me encouragement. My mind was going to that we have to start raising our children to pay attention and to stand up and to speak out and to be strong, because we became a country that was lazy and we stopped paying attention. And I was very much one of those people. I was not politically involved. I was not a voter. I didn't even know who Gretchen Whitmer was in 2020, if you can believe it or not. I did not. I'm like, who is this woman and why is she so mean? And I woke up to what was going on with the lockdowns. And then that got me into government and got me into my husband and I. Always been conservative minded, always been constitutional, always had an immense warmth in your heart for being an American. And when you were saying that we are not lost, we are not lost. And one simple thing, that song by Jason Aldean, Try That in a Small Town. There's no way that song is just blasting everywhere and #1 on the charts if Americans are done with this country. There's fight, but you have to get off your butt and you have to do something. You can't just keep sitting and saying, well, there's a local issue, I'm not going to the city council meetings, because that's the first thing. What are you doing? What are you doing? Do you have a problem with a stoplight or a problem with getting a stop sign? Do you go to the city council meetings? Do you know, Mike is doing a fabulous job of being involved in his local government. You have to get involved in your local government, and you have to teach your children from birth what their rights are, what their God-given rights are. And I love it with my grandchildren. I mean, they say the darndest things, and it just makes me so proud that I know that, and I believe with all of my heart, that's why God gave me those 3 grandbabies to raise, because I needed to be the one that changed the generation, because I'm not going to always be here. And their mother's not with us any longer. My daughter passed away in a motorcycle accident. God needed me to give that fight and that fire and that truth to those kids, because they're going to be the ones that's going to be fighting when we're not here.
And I appreciate you fighting for all of us, because, look, guys, let me ask you all an honest question and answer it if you could. Just say, we have to kind of get over our stumbling blocks, then we can move forward with things. How many of you even know? Well, let me start from the beginning. How many of you even know that you have a state representative and a state senator? And if you do, how many of you know their name? Now, first you have to know that you have them. Then you have to know their name. And then furthermore, how many of you have actually visited face to face, whether it's at a coffee hour, whether it's, and I'll tell you how it works in Michigan. Everyone here is not from Michigan, although a lot of you are. In Michigan, you can just stand right out in we'll call it the foyer. They call it the rotunda. It goes around in a circle. Katherine Henry gave many impassioned speeches there when they have the doors closed during those closed door sessions because of the virus, but I digress. And I just stand there. Jamie sees me do it. I walk up and give Jamie a hug because she's awesome and she's my friend, but she sees me going and catching 5, 6, 10, 15, even 20 of them if I can on their way out. Like, did you guys know you can actually do that? This is if your representative, let me back up. If your state representative won't even give you the time of day to have a coffee hour, if they won't even give you the time of the day to let you come in their office and sit across from them at their desk, even if they won't let you do any of that, you can literally, like Katherine said, you still have to have some type of etiquette. You're not going to physically threaten them or you're going to get arrested, but you can walk up to them and literally just walk up and say, "Excuse me, representative, we need to talk." And they may or may not say they're busy, but you can talk to them while you're walking down the darn hallway. I've done it like many, many times. They're like, "I'm busy." I'm like, "That's all right. We'll just walk." And then I'm on the elevator with them and I'm still talking to them. And usually it's in front of like 5 or 6 of their colleagues. I mean, does that sound about right?
It does. It does. And I don't see many, if any, people doing that. I see you. I told you early on, there's an organization called Beta Michigan. There's motorcycle riders that fight for the freedom. The big thing that they did was get the helmet law passed in the state of Michigan. And they're generational as well. There's generations of them that go from children to daughters, grandmothers, husbands, wives. It's 7 generations. These people, they blow my mind, and they get stuff done. because they go and they talk and they go floor to floor at the Hob. They go office to office. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. They're a one-issue voter. That's their right as a motorcycle rider to freedom and protection, just like you're a one-issue voter on the Second Amendment. So it crosses party lines. And there used to be a time in Michigan when not that long ago, there were Democrats that were defenders of the Second Amendment and Democrats that were pro-life. It's just gotten out of control and it's got polarized. What you're doing is what I think is going to be incredible to make a difference, because you're showing people that it's achievable and that these people, do not treat them like they're anyone special. Don't ever treat me like I'm someone special. I, take a shower and, drive a minivan with 250,000 miles on it, just like you.
Yeah.
Where nobody's special. You should not ever be intimidated to speak to them, to hold them to the floor, to email them, to call them. The office doors are, I would probably guess, 75% of the office doors in our office building are always left unlocked, where you literally just open the door and walk into their front desk staff sitting right there in their office. Yeah.
It's just hoping that it's only 75%, but
Yeah.
And it needs to be all, but then again, though, those same people, though, they walk through hallways, they ride the elevators, they walk back and forth from the Senate building or House building, depending which chamber they're in. And you can catch up with them if you want to. It's actually not really very hard at all, actually.
Mhm.
So you talked about our future, right? And
Yeah.
teaching our kids and whatnot. And I just thought, we needed a little cute relief for a moment, because this is, pretty serious. At least I was getting all like up in people's faces, screaming at them that they needed to do their damn job and fight against the tyranny. So I invited a little special guest into my office.
Aw.
Emma is 9. Emma, I haven't asked you this before. Not that it's like live TV, except for the fact that your dad is watching it in the living room. So it's kind of like live TV.
What's up, Mike?
Oh, you just said hi to your daddy. So can you tell us, what does the Constitution do? Speak up.
Well, it helps people follow the laws, and then when people try to tell other people to follow the laws, they can show the people where the stuff is that they have to, like, the laws that they're breaking.
That was good for a 9-year-old being caught on the spot. So can you tell me,
Yeah.
have you heard of the Second Amendment?
Yeah.
What-
Kind of.
Don't worry about any of that. What does the Second Amendment do? What is it about?
I don't think I've ever read it before, so.
You've read it before. You're killing me, kid.
I don't know what's in it.
Daddy's gonna put you in timeout when you go back out there, girl. You know the first 10 amendments. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Where do your rights come from?
God.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's
So
the first thing we taught our grandchildren. I love it. They say the same thing.
God give you rights, or
God.
oh, but does the Constitution give you rights? It gives you some more specific to certain things, but your right to protect yourself, your right to life and liberty, and your right to own property and defend your privacy. Where do those rights come from?
God.
You go, girl.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, love you. Bye.
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 That's my grandson Bentley is 9. And that sounds so much like something he would say, even the way she said it. Tell her the same age.
Well, you know what? She provided a segue for me without knowing it. Okay, I'm going to go crazy, and then you guys can talk. I know Catherine's going to chime on this immediately, because not many people get it. So right after this Ministry of Gun Control was announced, I hear conservative talking head after pundit, ones that have the biggest followings, and some of them I generally like, okay? But they just keep doing this nails on the chalkboard saying, well, Biden can't just go through and do all this to the different states, because the 10th Amendment grants states rights, and states have the rights over the federal government. And what's your opinion on that, Catherine? Do state governments have any rights? Let's just ask that.
Can we let Jamie go first? Because I'm gonna totally.
You're gonna own it. You're gonna own it because you
go first,
you have been
Catherine.
in this game more than I have. I would just give my opinion that I believe that we do. I believe the states do have the power, and I do believe that a lot of that starts with our sheriffs.
Power, yes. But I
Yes,
said rights. That's a different thing.
rights. Well, yes. Yes, we do.
So
State government, more specifically.
yeah, so here's the thing. It's really disturbing to me that the first 10 amendments collectively are known as the Bill of Rights, because it should really be the first 9. So the 9th Amendment specifically talks about our rights. And, it's not very long language. If somebody watching this has never read it, by golly, just go and read the 9th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. If you're in Michigan, it's Article 1, Section 23. But anyway, so you have rights, and it's talking about that we, the people, have these rights. Okay, even the unenumerated rights, even things that we don't spell out in the Constitution that is a right, there's still rights that we have because God gave them to us, and the government can't just take them away.
Yes.
Then you segue into the 10th Amendment, and the 10th Amendment is pretty clear, and it's talking about power, not rights. And then what it says is that any powers that are not specifically delegated to the federal government or to the state government are retained, in fact, by the people. The people, if you look at the structure of that sentence, the people, that's mentioned at the end, because yes, you have the whole purpose of the U.S. Constitution in many respects is that delegation to the federal government. And so, yeah, what you don't delegate to the federal government, there's powers that are then delegated to state governments. Of course, we would all say that. But whatever is not specifically delegated to either the federal government or the state government is left to the people. But again, that's powers. Not a single word in there has anything to do with rights. No government entity or official, as a government entity or official, has rights.
As a right. That's a very good point. It's a power, it's not a right.
Yes, and here's the difference. So, Jamie Thompson, and I'm very honored to call you representative. I am. You're the best person that could possibly be serving me. But I don't like politicians, so I prefer just to call you Jamie, right? Because you're like a real person. Jamie has rights. Representative Thompson, actually, I would argue, has no rights. You only have the consent of the governed, which would include yourself. You are one of your constituents, of course. You're still a human, but you and your family and me and my family and everybody in our hometowns, you only have the power that was given to you by consent of the people you're governing, right?
Right.
So when they say, when some conservatives, I think, get it wrong, is they'll come back and say, well, the federal government has no right to do this type of gun control. Only a state would have this right. It's like, no, states don't have rights either. States have powers that are delegated by the people, but even then, they're always going to be checked by that state's constitution and the federal.
That's a really good point, because there's so much power, no pun intended, but power in words. And when you're using it, saying the rights, you say it so fast. I've probably said it, but when you break it down like that and you say it's not a right, it's a power, it gives it a whole new meaning.
Yes. So basically, the exact verbiage is the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So they're really only talking about powers there. And they're not talking anything about whether a state has, because I really like the way Thomas Jefferson wrote it. And it was him writing on behalf of some of the other founding fathers, obviously. But it's all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what rights are. They're endowed by your creator. He also goes on in another section to say these are the laws of nature and of nature's God. And that just supersedes government. Like, rights supersede any government, like, so much that they shouldn't even be allowed to be touched or infringed on. Or there shall not be a law that's passed. Those types of things is the only thing the government, in other words, there's directives telling the government that they shall not do this and they shall not do that, right?
Well, and let's not forget, because this is the concept of states' rights holds the same amount of water as the separation of church and state, words that are not in the Constitution. In fact, what is in the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution preamble, for example, is that we, the people of the United States, to secure the blessings of the capital B of liberty, capital L, to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. So we wanted to protect our God-given liberties and the blessings that God provided for us. Not to mention, I think, as much as Michigan goes wrong in a lot of ways, what it doesn't go wrong with is the preamble to the state constitution, as much as the Democrats have tried to chop up the whole rest of the state constitution and add things that don't belong in there. This does, and it's simply said, we, the people of the state of Michigan, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom and earnestly desiring to secure these blessings undiminished to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. I don't know how much clearer it can be than that, because you have things like, say, the Second Amendment that says shall not be infringed. And then you have concepts like this, where we're saying we want these blessings that are not given to us by the government, but given to us by who? Almighty God. Yes, a public official can say that, and it's not some separation of church and state issue, because that doesn't exist in the Constitution. But rather, we can acknowledge that Almighty God gave us all of our blessings, and it is to secure these blessings undiminished to ourselves and our posterity that we've created our state government even. So we need to remember these things. We need to remember where our rights come from. And we need to remember that the words of these documents matter. I mean, we could talk about all kinds of things, when they say, automatic rifles, that's not what's meant in the Constitution. It would be a musket and it would be this, and that. But shoot, check out an episode I did on my show recently where we went over the historical definition of the words keep, bear, and arms, each separately, because we pretty damn well covered that all three of those clearly point to the concepts of the right to keep and bear arms, as we true conservatives and constitutionalists fight for on a regular basis. And when I say true, that excludes people that are like NRA, suckers and whatever, the fake Second Amendment supporters.
I think that it was very intentional. I think that not only our country's constitution, but our state's constitution was very intentional. It didn't just fall together by accident. And we have, over the years, what you say and how powerful you say it, that's not being said enough in our families and in our communities. And people are forgetting. And the next generation forgets a little more, and a little more, and a little more. And that's why you do not give liberal-minded people an inch, because they will take 3 miles. And you can't bend on it and you can't break on it. Sometimes it's going to be so much easier to do. You just can't.
Well, and that's the thing. I was talking, I'm not going to say her name, because she's an awesome freedom fighter, a wonderful woman, somebody that I met when I ran for state rep 1 trillion years ago in the state of Michigan. And she's a part of a medical freedom organization, just the right to have informed consent. And she works in the medical profession, very much so, right in the heart of all the issues that arose, even with things that we talked about with Karen Whitsett's issue and everything else. But anyway, and she said to me, we were talking about, actually, I was asking her about a Republican state rep that has recently announced he's running for Michigan Supreme Court. And I had heard of him, but I didn't hear enough about him. And so I wanted to know if he had filled out the surveys for any of the medical freedom organizations and what his scoring was, basically, because that would be one of the first key indicators like I said, I don't trust the NRA ratings or anything else that comes out of organizations like that. So anyway, it was my first go-to. And so we got in this little conversation and about how there's maybe 3 state reps that the entire state of Michigan has that I would say are worth anything. And Jamie, you were one of them, and Angela Regas. And off the top of my head, I actually can't think of what the third would be, but I'm sure there is one. I hope there is one. But anyway, she got to saying that, just that she has no trust anymore in any of them. But the flip side says that, she, understands the concept of having to compromise so that you can at least get something done. And the thing is, that might make sense in some realms. Like if you have certain things you're pushing for that are all in the realm of still being constitutional, and you might have to give up on one to fight for another or whatever, I can get that. But you should never. Now, this is, again, speaking right to all of you people that are in your state government, in your local government, any state across this country. If you are in government at all, you should never compromise on something that means you would be violating the Constitution. Anything, and don't look to your corporate counsel or your city attorney or whomever to give you the thumbs up or to explain something to you. You took an oath to the Constitution. You didn't take an oath to take some attorney's word for it, because most likely that attorney is a dipshit and doesn't know how to read the Constitution. So don't take their word for it. Most attorneys suck and they don't know about the Constitution. And I could say that because I am one. What I could say to you, though, is you took an oath to defend the Constitution and to support that Constitution, and you should know what it says. And it does not say anywhere in there that you have an obligation to compromise, that it's okay to vote in violation of this part of the Constitution because that's what you think is best to be able to get what you want to further this part of the Constitution. So, no, you can't vote yes to support the gun measures in Michigan right now just because you think that's going to in turn secure your votes that you want on your pro-life bills or whatever the case may be. You have to be, there's some issues that are not compromisable. And Jamie said this, there's the left, you give them an inch and they take a mile. And the thing is, whether it's something like that or not, the fact is there's just some issues that are never something that should have been compromised. And still to this day, people, even if you're the only one, be the only one. I certainly was at a township level. There were times that I had other good guys on board with me, and there were times that I was like, what the heck's happening? I am the only one. But did that mean I backed down? No, that meant I doubled down, and I explained, and I read what part of the Constitution they were violating, or I read what part of the law that they were violating. Whatever it was, I explained it, put it on the record, let the people in the audience know. And I also voted to make sure that we expanded and we kept Zoom meetings going, but not in place of in-person meetings, that we just had as much openness and transparency and accountability as humanly possible. Boy, did they hate me there, but I was doing my job. So just make sure, guys, that you're keeping all that in mind, that there's just some things, and I didn't say the name of this person because I have the utmost respect for her. She's super intelligent, and I get where she's coming from, that the concept that, well, gosh, it just seems like if you're always just too hard fighting for these constitutional principles that you're never going to get anywhere. But I mean, look at what happened to Trump. He didn't do what he should have done in his first term of office. There was a lot he actually could have done to help defend and support the Constitution, a hell of a lot more than what he was able to accomplish. And why didn't he do it? Because he was listening to the people telling him, no, you can't take it too rough this first term because then you'll never get into a second term of office. And where did that get us in 2020?
They're trying to put him in prison now.
Yep.
So.
Well, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't anyway. So why not just
go out and play the story?
Well, I was very passionate about the, I don't know, I'm sure you've paid attention, but you talked about medical freedom. So there was a bill I voted no on. I actually haven't publicly even talked about it because, like Micah said, we're putting out so many fires everywhere, but they wanted to put, which it passed. So they want to put lead testing for children on the vaccine schedule. And I was adamantly opposed to it. Yeah, did you know that?
No, I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, so it passed. It passed. There was more Republicans that voted no than Republicans that voted yes, but there were Republicans that voted yes. And they couldn't believe
And this
why.
is
Yeah,
an
why
actual, the full legislature. This wasn't just
Yeah.
out of committee.
No, it was voted on. It was voted on in the House. And I number one, okay, I am for choice. I personally do not vaccinate, but I'm for you to have a choice. And I'm a nurse that does not vaccinate, did not vaccinate her children, and I'm not vaccinated myself. So when people tell me, well, you have to, or you had to take the flu shot, well, that's not a vaccine, but no, I didn't. I signed a waiver and I went on about my day. That's what happens. So when they tell you you can't work in a hospital, that's a lie. You absolutely can. You just have to, like you said, know your rights. So when this came about and they're saying, we have all these children in the state of Michigan that are having behavioral issues and there's increase in autism and they believe it's directly related to the lead. And my question in committee is, well, what about the heavy metals in the vaccines? What about the dyes in the food? What about what's in our food? What about just everything? Are we going to test our children's blood, 4 times a year until they're 18 for every single thing that could be causing these behavioral health issues? And even if you have an immunization schedule, a lead test is a blood test. And it doesn't belong on there. And then they say, well, parents can opt out. Well, I'm sorry. There are so many parents that aren't educated on it. They just see the sign now at a pharmacy that, hey, get your flu shot, get your kids checked for lead, do this, do that. There's no education for those people. And they're just going to do what they think they're expected to do. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And they're like, well, this is going to look really bad on you. You're in a vulnerable seat. You're a nurse. You're supposed to, well, I don't. And I'm not going to, because we're taking, we could go on and on. We are feeding, the state of Michigan is feeding your child breakfast, lunch. They're controlling their immunization schedule. They want to put clinics in the schools so that you don't even have to take your kid to the doctor. They can just do it right at the school. They want, mental health to be in the school, which sounds wonderful, but is it? Is it? Don't like it. Don't trust it. They want to raise your child for you, and there's nothing left. The counselors they want to put, everything they want to put. Their state of Michigan is raising your children, and parents are not raising their own children. They don't have to. The state's going to do it for them.
Yeah, but if something goes wrong, it's the parents' fault.
That's super scary. Let me pause real quick. I did get a couple generous super chats, and I want to thank you guys for your support. Or one guy a bunch of times for his support. QD with a $20 super chat. Thanks, man. He said, didn't he already try to do this? Didn't the AWB's complete failure prove that Joe Brandon is a doofus and a traitor to the Constitution? Yes. I agree. Thank you, QD, for gifting. It looked like you gifted 10 channel memberships earlier. Thank you. And the GD Bacon just became a YouTube member. Thanks, man. And QD came back again and says, start removing laws and agencies like the 6 parts of the ATF. I think both of you agree we need less government, right?
And that's actually what I was going to say. I didn't say it at the time because you were on a roll, but as far as you not wanting your state rep to pass any new laws, I would say I want her to pass a crap ton, because what she needs to do is not only stop or have no votes on all the bad stuff that they're trying to roll out. She needs to be proactive and trying to, and now I realize this is an uphill battle, especially being a minority, et cetera, but she needs to be passing bills that remove government agencies, that shut down their supposed authority, that limits the way that schools can do XYZ or local governments can do XYZ, that reins in this tyrannical action by government at all levels. And there's a way to do that. There could be laws passed about when a government official violates their oath of office. There could be, made laws about making it much easier to have standing to get into a courthouse to, sue your government official for violating your rights. Because one of the things that we saw in 2020 with a lot of the lawsuits that were happening was that the courts were saying, oh, well, but everybody was equally, harmed by this. All businesses were shut down for a period of time, and everybody was told they had to go home and had a stay at home order and all these other things. Everybody was told they had to wear a mask. So therefore, none of you were harmed more than the rest of the general public. So therefore, you don't have standing. That was one of the big things that the courts kept telling people. I mean, so state reps have a lot of power. Senators have a lot of power to enact good laws that further protect the people and further rein in government. So anyway, that's just my little
Well,
spiel.
I'd love to talk to you about those. I would absolutely love to put those forward. And now is the perfect time because of the dynamics on what's going on.
And I would note, I didn't say that I didn't want her to just not pass laws. I said I wanted her to repeal laws. So on a technicality, but I get it. Like, you technically have to make a bill to repeal a bill. So I want her to repeal all of the gun control laws in Michigan.
Yes.
I didn't just say I didn't want her to do anything like at all. But
and Micah, just so you know, because this probably will come up and you'll say, why weren't you on there? So there was Representative Phil Green. He just did, I think it's a 2-bill package that addresses the commission, the Capitol Commission, to remove the powers that have been given to the Capitol Commission. And I got the memo, and all day long we were in session, and I was going to co-sponsor it. I did not do it before he dropped it. So my name will not be on it because I did not get to him to do it. And sometimes that's like we talked about with Mike Harris.
Yeah.
It's great to see your representatives co-sponsoring things, but sometimes you get a memo, hey, I've got a blue back on my desk.
Yeah.
It's going to be there till 4, something will happen, and they've already took it and submitted it, and you didn't get your name on it. Doesn't mean you don't support it. It just means you didn't get your name on it. So you see that I wasn't on there.
Okay. And yeah, I actually haven't had a chance to look at that yet. It's been a crazy week for me, but so this is different than Representative Mike Harris' bill.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It specifically addresses the Capitol Commission.
Okay, that's good. So we have somebody said something earlier. Now, you guys are going to have to help fill in the blanks who don't live in Michigan, but they said, Katherine brought up the point. You said, hopefully there's more than just you. And I know there's a lot of quote rhinos out there. I get it, that have voted for gun control. So I'm going to call it what it is, especially when the minority leader does it. And you don't need to chime in on this, Jamie. I don't care. But look, when the minority leader votes for gun control, it gives people a sour taste in their mouth. And my viewers come back and they say things like, Republicans and Democrats are exactly the same. And then they go further. And it's this black pill movement. And I'm trying to get all you guys out of that. Because it is true. We need to acknowledge it to a point. But then they'll say, well, all Republicans and all Democrats are the same. Then they'll say there's not one good one in my whole state capital. So now I just sit home and I do nothing and I complain on the internet. So I'll give you guys a couple. Yeah. I'll give you guys a couple names, and I shouldn't do this because there's more than just this, but I'll share with you guys people I have talked to like in the last 3 days, okay? There's a senator who is a rock star when it comes to, I'm just talking about Second Amendment stuff, guys, for the most part, because I just can't follow them on everything. But there's a lady named Michelle Hoitenga. She goes by Missy commonly. Talk to her.
You're trying to make me throw up. That's a good one to talk about right now, dude.
I've been talking to her about the Second Amendment and how she has a bill that's going to companion Mike Harris's to remove authorities from the Capitol Commission. So that's somebody in the Michigan Senate who's been fighting hard for the Second Amendment.
For 5 minutes.
I've never met her. I didn't even recognize that name.
She's a loser. Yeah. I don't trust her. She's awful. She's a horrid human being. She thinks she's the what's her thing she had all over Facebook? I'm the champion of the Constitution or something like that. But she voted yes on every single piece of COVID legislation crap that came out in 2020, 2021, 2022 in the state of Michigan to violate people's rights. Every single thing. She voted yes to support all of it.
I'll say what I said again more clearly. When it comes to the Second Amendment, because that's what I talk about on here, she has introduced a Senate bill to remove the Capitol Commission's authority. So
that must be the
She gets
It
5
must
minutes.
be the
in
same
Senate.
thing.
She's the only one that's used to bill in the Senate.
Yeah, it must be the same one as Phil Green did in the House, because there was just 2 in the House that were submitted. They've not gone to committee or be voted on, and they're not going to.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute.
They're not.
To AEDU, let's not forget about, dang, Lori, she just reminded me. I did a show on this. It might have been season 1, so that would have been 2022. But anyway, there was a bill in the House where Michelle Hoytanga was the chief sponsor of it, and she was the one out there like advocating for basically expansion of DNR rules and regulations. Things like if you shoot the wrong animal at the wrong time or whatever, and you could end up with, a lifetime ban on hunting in the state of Michigan, all kinds of crazy stuff. And she's the one that was advocating the hardest for that particular bill. I'll have to look up on my channel the specific bill number and all that. I went into a whole bunch of detail, and I put her ugly little face all over my screen during that whole episode. But that was all about the Second Amendment, man. To AEDU, I'm telling you, she's no good.
Okay, they all suck, I guess. But
No, not Jamie, not Angela. Come on now, not all.
well, she put forth a Senate bill that would remove the Capitol Commission's supposed authority that it doesn't have to ban gun control. So I will back her on that, because I thought you said earlier when it came to the Democrat rep that you disagree with on everything else, even more than Missy Hoytanga. You did say that we do need a backer in this one thing, so I would hope you would remain consistent.
Oh, that one
You
bill?
still support Missy Hoytanga on this one bill that you agree with. Right?
Oh, if she's got 1 or 2 good bills, absolutely, people should support those 1 or 2 good bills. All I'm saying is, don't trust her to be the Second Amendment savior by any stretch of the imagination. That's all.
Mhm. But speaking of that, I'm kind of curious, and let's get your take on this, Catherine. Why do you think people would start going on my social media insinuating that I am not a Second Amendment supporter and that I did not vote to protect? So is it a troll? Is it a liberal troll? Because they're saying, well, show us the proof, and Mike is like, what are you talking about? You can look up her voting record. She voted no on every single gun bill, and they'll come back and they'll say, I don't believe you. And then people are kind of starting to, I feel like it's a troll, like a far left liberal that wants to just get me riled up, or what would their intention be?
It could be a conspiracy theorist conservative who is, somebody planted the seed, and then they hear everything, they believe everything that they hear, kind of thing. And so they're just running with it, and they expect everybody to do their own, do their
Homework.
research.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do anything for themselves, because that happens a lot with the far conspiracy theorists on both sides of the aisle. But
Yeah.
What I would just say is, listen, I have a voting record. It's public record. I stand by every single one of those. If you want to come back and say you don't believe in my voting record, then you tell me exactly which bill you think that I voted incorrectly on in order to stand up and fight for the Second Amendment, and then we can have a conversation. Just keep turning it back on them. But you say, no, I'm not doing your homework for you.
Yeah.
I told you exactly how you can find out where I stand on these issues. And it's not like it's before, because like I said, I had run for state rep before, many, many years ago. And so I was trying to find other people that I thought were like-minded to say, this is what I would vote like, because I didn't have a voting record to stand on. But at this point, you have somewhat of a voting record, albeit it's not as long as somebody who's been in office for forever, but you have something to stand on. So just turn it around and say, listen, I stand for the Second Amendment. I support the Second Amendment. My voting record speaks for itself. If you have a particular bill that you think that I voted incorrectly on, then bring it right here, and we'll do a debate. Well, in fact, we'll do a Facebook Live or a YouTube live video all about it. I'm fine. So you tell me what bill it is, and I'll send you the information on how we could do this live and have a discussion on the issue. I mean, call them out on their BS.
Yeah.
And QD had an idea that was so good. I already did that. So go back and watch my channel, and you can see Representative Thompson and I out on the range. So we definitely did that already. And I think a lot of you guys should do that.
Wait. You went shooting and you didn't invite me? Dude, how many years have we been friends? You've never taken me shooting?
You were down in Florida when we did that.
Mm-hmm. I was stuck in Michigan for a whole month this summer, so I'm just saying.
I will say it was the first time I shot AR. And what did I say afterwards? I said, "That's an AR."
Yeah, like that's it, because they
I
all
was like, "That's
demonize
it."
it, like at the tank or a grenade launcher or whatever.
I know, right?
And I'm gonna I like to share real life stuff with you guys just to give you guys some encouragement. So I left a comment to my state rep Jamie last night, and then I left it to another state rep who I'm really trying to get behind and encourage, because I know she's got some people trying to put her through the ringer as well. So I basically left. I'm going to read real quick if you guys want to indulge me here. This was sent to Representative Jamie Thompson, and then I also sent it to Representative Jamie Green. She's from the Lapeer area. Maybe some of you guys have her as your state rep. And this was actually to do with that whole abortion thing. So even though on 2A EDU, this is what I do, the Second Amendment, I try to get behind reps on a lot of issues. So I said, I will leave you the same comment that I left for my rep, the other Jamie, who is my friend. Now there's 3 Jamies, and the third one's not my friend. I said, Speaker Tate's office says, Whitsett has been known to change her mind, and they are working on trying to do just that. If Rep. Whitsett can stay strong in her convictions, and I pray she does, there better not be any Republican who crosses the other side of the aisle. A handful of Republicans already screwed over the 2A and voted for gun control. Mm-hmm. They better all hold the line on this, or the conservative voters in Michigan will lose any bit of faith we may have left in the party. Keep fighting, Jamie, and pass my message on to any in your caucus who may feel like being weak in the knees on this. And Jamie Green responded back and said, agreed. And I said, I appreciate you. And then she came back and said, and I appreciate you. Don't give up the ship. Mm-hmm. So that was a representative that, look, she's not even my state rep. I just got on there and started having discourse with her, and we talked about the issue, and I encouraged her, and she encouraged me. So I think maybe that's something pretty easy to do. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's great.
And I told her, you better make sure those Republicans, like, look, it sucks to have to be this way, but okay, Jamie, you're squared away. There's this gun control bill coming. You're going to vote no on it no matter what. Great. But that's not enough. Then I have to call you and say, but Jamie, I heard there's 4 or 5 on your side of the aisle that might be a little weak in the knees right now and might be willing to cross. So now you need to get in there and start breathing down their throat, wherever it's at, in the hallway, the caucus room, wherever you're at, and try to get them to do the right thing, right?
Yeah, and we do. There's members, that are more vocal than others. Even when we have caucus, there are members that always stand up and encourage each other, or say how they're feeling, or say, we shouldn't be looking at it this way. We should be going that way. And then there's kind of the ones that are just quiet and don't say much. But when we feel passionately about something, or it's something that's going to break the Constitution, or that is a hardcore, conservative stance, we are definitely talking to each other. If they're in, this whole thing with these vulnerable districts, it is. I will say that I always first and foremost go with my morals and my values, and then I do go with my district, and then I go with my party. But the easiest votes for me are the partisan votes. Those are just easy. The more complicated ones for me are the ones that involve different things of when it comes to local government, or local funds, or local this or local that, that you really have to research and you have to understand. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, because a lot of those ones do directly affect districts more than others. Those are the ones that you really have to study, and you don't want to make a mistake and vote wrong on. But we have these seats that they call these vulnerable seats, because they're like a 50-50 split. So in my district, what was really interesting was when the numbers came in at the end, like, we redistricted. So you could just do a projection of what you thought the district was going to look like. So my district, and I think you might have told your viewers this before, The southern portion of my district was represented by a Republican, Joe Bellino, and the northern part in Wayne County the representative was Darren Camilleri, a very progressive Democrat. And they both had held their 6-year terms. When they termed out and went into the Senate, they both ran for Senate when we got redistricted. So my district became their 2 districts pretty much put together. And then when they could only give a projection, so it looked like it was going to be like a +2, +3 Democrat seat. And then I won it as a Republican. But then when the numbers came after the election, what we found out was the highest number of voter in my district is an independent voter by a good margin. I don't even have those numbers, but I'd love to share them with you. It's an independent voter, which may be someone similar to you, Micah, it's a one-issue voter. So they're independent. They don't tie themselves to any party. That's the largest margin of my voter. Then it would be the Democrats. Then it would be the Republicans. So the interesting dynamics is that I won that as a Republican because I ran to be a voice for the people, for everyone. And I have to say that I will always stick to my votes, to my conservative voting record. But if I don't agree with you, I still will listen to you. I will never ignore you. You can always call my office. You can always ask for my help. You can always tell me your side, and we can have that, fair and open debate. Because the way I look at it is how I look at my job and my role as a nurse. I took an oath to do no harm to my patient, and that's why I really had to leave the nursing because of what was happening to our patients in nursing homes, and family members are being left dying alone. And everything that I was taught as a nurse was being thrown out the window when they came in with a different agenda. That's what helped wake me up. So that's how I view my role too. And I think that that's what really fits our district and is good. I know down in Monroe, we're very red, and you guys are kind of like, man, why do we have to redistrict to bring in this Wayne County that tends to be more blue? But I think I can bring us together.
Yeah, it was a tough fight. You have the second narrowest margin of victory in the whole house. Okay.
Yeah.
So
735 votes I won by.
And just so I can offer a quick point of clarification. What she's talking about is, tell me if I'm wrong here, but you're not talking about how you would compromise on like the Second Amendment or something.
No.
That's fine.
No.
She's saying like she was on a bill, for example, that I remember where it had bipartisan support and some Republicans voted against it. You went with some Democrats on it. And it was like, we're going to repeal the sales tax put on the delivery for aggregate delivery. So if somebody's hauling limestone for a landscaping project or a road project and they charge $200 delivery, there would have been $12 sales tax on the $200 delivery. You reached across the aisle with Democrats to repeal the sales tax. Do I kind of have that right?
You do, but you don't. We have a lot of, actually in our district, we have a lot of recycle aggregate businesses, and they were being double dinged where they shouldn't have been charged for both a sales and a usage. And there was no way, but what they did is it was good for my district. So my name was on that bill as part of the package. And then when it got to the Senate, they wouldn't let it through the Senate with my name on it because I am the Republican in the most vulnerable district. So even though it passed the House in my name, when I got to the Senate, they removed my name and they put another Republican's name on it. And yeah.
See how politics happens, guys?
Does that make any sense? And there's legislation that really angers me because I am the only nurse in the House of Representatives, and in serving on health policy, there is a really good bill that I was starting to work on with a Democrat, but it would allow for a med tech in the hospital, which would take some of the burden off of the nurse. And there are, I'm not going to get into the medical aspect of that, but knowing because I have passed medication and I know pharmacology and I know what that would look like on the floor during a shift, how that would work, what medications would be something that we would consider, ones that we wouldn't, so on and so forth. Who would you talk to about that? Would you talk to a nurse, or would you talk to a farmer or a business owner? You would talk to a nurse. Well, my name's not allowed to be on that bill because Joe Tate says so, because I'm a Republican and I am in a highly contested seat and I get nothing. So I stay and I fight And I fight, and we will take back majority. And I tell you what, you're going to see a whole lot of bills with Jamie Thompson's name on them that are good legislation, not forced growing government legislation.
Well, it sounds like they're still up to the same old tricks. So
so it's party politics, and it's just absolutely asinine. And even, I can say that some of the Democrats are like, this is retarded. This is so stupid. We're just going to keep doing this to each other. We're just going to keep playing, party politics. I mean, if it's good legislation, it's good legislation. And, it should be, and you'd probably appreciate this, Catherine, because there's so much in healthcare that we're not allowing our healthcare workers to work at the full scope of their practice. Michigan is so restraining to scope of practice and what other states, how it works, as just right down to a CNA and an LPN, and it's a hot mess. They really need to look at scope.
You guys both, by the way, I've been trying to flash them on the screen so you guys can see them, but they were calling both of you guys a stud, which I assume is a compliment earlier. And Linda's one of your constituents, thanking you, my lovely wife.
Braxton wants to have a play date really bad with Lindsay.
I actually just
set that up.
brought that up the other day, actually. So make that happen, Linda. And they're going after some reps in here right now that voted for I'm just gonna put it on the screen. Jane Locke's pissed at Gina Johnson for selling out the 2A for a 30 piece of silver for the district that she actually lives in.
Oh, Gina, Gina. I was really struggling to figure out who she was talking about. Okay, that makes sense.
I talked to Gina.
Yeah, that's the Michigan House of Prayer lady who
Yes.
I've known for many years. Yes.
Here's what she did. And here's the thing. I didn't give her a pass on it. I called her out on it. And
Me too.
she watches my channel too. So it's like, look, there was the whole Capitol Commission ban, right? Then there was the budget that went through that had $5 million in funding for it. She voted for that budget along with many Republicans. So henceforth funded lots of woke stuff, including gun control. Her side of the story would be, and you guys obviously have your own opinions, I'm seeing in the chat, and I'm not totally speaking for her, guys. I'm summarizing. So please ask her herself for her complete side. She said there was a bunch of crap in it, and the Democrats are in charge, but that her district really needed some things. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I really shouldn't quote people, but I believe she said it was something like a water treatment plant, that they needed fresh water in her area. And if she voted down on the whole bill, then her community wouldn't get the water they needed. So, look, I think it's a problem when any representative votes for anything that funds gun control, period. I think we have another problem concurrently, though. So this isn't me giving her a pass. I'm just saying there's two things at once here. Even on the state level, we're finding stuff that's rather omnibus, where we can't pass single subject bills. They group in, can this community have fresh water to drink, in the same bill that says $5 million to ban your right to keep and bear arms at the Capitol.
Yeah. There's so much of that. And I told you this, I did not vote on the budget because my father passed away and I was in Kentucky. So I was not there for the budget vote. But I will tell you, there has been numerous bills where there are aspects of the bill that you're like, this is really great. I agree with this. If it's something, maybe it's funding going to state police or something that is much needed in a certain area. But then there will be so many bad things. And you're like, this just, because you have to make a yes or no vote. So in order to vote for something you want, you would have to vote for something bad. So usually if it's bad, I just don't vote for it. I'm not going to vote for it, but it's very disheartening. And it's very confusing to the voter too, because then there could have been something really good in that bill and you have a record as voting no on it. So that's exactly what they're going to flash all over a bunch of flyers, that your representative voted no on funding the state police. But what they're not telling you is in that bill package, maybe $10 million was going to Detroit for racquetball courts or something.
Yes.
And you know what's disgusting is that if that happens to you, Jamie, remember, first of all, I'm going to encourage you, read the Michigan State Constitution frontward and backwards so you can know it off the top of your head. It's going to be hard. There's a lot in there. There's a lot more in there than the U.S. Constitution. But anytime that there's an omnibus bill, anytime there's a bill where there's, stuff sandwiched in there or whatever, remember the words of the ever so eloquent Governor Whitmer when she was espousing how she was going to veto Senate Bill 858 in 2020. Because why? Her chief reason was because it was unconstitutional, because it was a bill that touched on more than one subject. And that's in Article 4, Section 24 of our Michigan State Constitution. I don't live there. I'm still a practicing attorney in Michigan. But anyway, the state constitution, that no law shall embrace more than one subject, which shall be expressed in its title. And no bill shall be altered or amended on its passage through either house so as to change its original purpose as determined by its total content and not alone by its title. So when they talk about passing these vehicle bills, like all the COVID BS that the Republican controlled House was doing in 2020, and they're like, oh, well, it has, microchipping as a requirement and all this other stuff, but no problem, we can fix it when it gets to the Senate. Morons, hello, you should never vote yes for something like that. And the state constitution expressly prohibits those vehicle bills for you having this bill that essentially makes it halfway through and then you gut it and you change it and you do all kinds of other stuff to it. That is expressly forbidden, besides the common notion.
And I do remember early on them talking about that in caucus about her, because obviously I wasn't an elected official when a lot of those things were going on, but I do remember in caucus talking about it. And I think there was one of our members that did a floor speech that Putski kept gaveling them down for, talking about the unconstitutionality of forcing to vote. And now, glad you brought that up, because these 7 months have flown so fast and it's been one issue after another. And I remember Senator Bellino had said, you're going to feel like you're getting hit with a water hose, and just once you get your bearings, you'll be fine. And I think I've been okay with that, because that's sort of how it was, graduating nursing school and hitting the floor, going, there's no way in the world I am going to be able to get this amount of work done in 12 hours. And it was like sink or swim. And I swam, and I'm swimming for you guys now in the house. But yeah, geez, thanks for bringing that up. I need to talk to you more. You'll keep me grounded and keep me to the floor.
Call me. I would love to help you in any kind of capacity to make sure that the constitutional bounds that you need to act in, but also to help give you that knowledge more readily off the top of your head, or even to be a voice standing right next to you to help you educate others, including your peers, because way too many don't understand the Constitution and don't read it. So, and when it comes to being in a district that's on the, the cusp of Republican, Independent, Democrat, all that other fun stuff, I mean, shoot, if you have events around your district and you need constitutional people to come and speak, that are not about, as long as there's an R behind your name, it's all that matters. I mean, I'm the one that was calling the Republicans out the loudest, I think, in 2020.
And I think that would be great. That's great in portions of our district. When you move further north, like into Taylor, a lot of those people aren't educated on the certain things that government does, and they just kind of do what they're told because they put a big red bow on it. And when you really talk to them, they don't agree with those things. And people are just not educated voters. And I don't want to slam people, but they're not educated voters. No. If I would rather someone just not vote on something on a ballot than to vote, it just sounds good. Or I don't know any of these people, these councilmen, but that name, Jackson Smith sounds like a good name, don't do that. Don't do that. Just don't vote if you don't know anything.
Well, and if it makes you feel any better too, I had no qualms about going right down into Hart Plaza in downtown Detroit in the midst of 2020, when there were no public bathrooms open anywhere, by the way, because of the orders. But I had no problem going down.
Remember those days?
and spending, hours with people who lived and worked and right in downtown Detroit and loved the governor and loved all of her policies, but then to sit down and explain exactly how it wasn't just her, but it was our Republican controlled Senate and our Republican controlled House at the time that was doing just as many bad things that she was doing, and how it was about following the Constitution and fighting for we the people. And I got more signatures by talking to people about the honest, hard truth and how it doesn't, have anything to do with party lines. I got more signatures for my Restore Freedom and Initiative petition in hardcore Democrat areas by just having those kind of real conversations with people.
And because you went there, and we've said that over and over again, our conservatives have given up on those districts and I didn't. And that's what people need to do. They need to go have those hard conversations with people.
Yeah, and you know what I would add to that is that should be especially for representatives too, right? And senators, or county commissioner, whether it's your local township trustee. If they don't know what is in the statute, ordinance, public act, whatever local, locality that they're voting on, in my opinion, they should just vote no on the darn thing. If they put so much paper in front of them that they couldn't possibly read it. And again, I'm like, I don't see eye to eye with him on everything, just like I don't with a lot of libertarians. However, there was a former congressman in Texas, and he became known as Dr. No, and I'm referring to Ron Paul. And one of his claims to fame was he was so sick and tired of them putting all this omnibus stuff together that anytime he couldn't read it, anytime he couldn't understand it, anytime it was whatever, he would just say, no, I can't read it, no, and just vote no. Even if the Republicans told him that he was supposed to, right?
And that's what it should be.
Yeah. And that's the way I'd like to see more Republicans in this day and age stand up. I don't know if we lost Jamie or if she just
she put her finger up. She must have had something that happened behind the scenes that she needed to attend to.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, we've been on for quite a while, so I'm not going to keep you guys much longer. I just want to read some real quick comments because both of you have lots of people saying nice things. My friend Threaded from My Pleasure says all three of you are inspiring. Thank you, which is awesome. There's so many more that I can't read right now, but I'm just going to go through a few. Here's a real quick one, Jamie, and this is a good one that I've thought about. Has anyone ever come up to Speaker Tate and said that you're a Marine? You did take an oath, and once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. I wonder if he's the type of guy that a conservative or a Republican could walk up and just say that to him. What would happen?
I have never had a personal conversation with him other than good morning, just acknowledging that he's there. I've never had the personal conversation, but I have heard people say that he is approachable. They did tell us, because I didn't know the man, they told us that he was probably the more moderate of the choices to be the Democrat speaker of the options that were there. I don't know. I think that I have heard from people that and that's conversations we've had too in caucus that, geez, hold him to the Marine, hold him to who he says he is. And I'm very surprised that he has led. And then people will say, well, he's let some crazy stuff happen in Michigan. And then people will say, well, imagine how bad it would be if he wasn't there moderating it to an extent.
He still needs to be asked about that when it comes to the 11 gun control bills that he pushed through the House very quickly. So hopefully someone can ask him that.
But I would say it has nothing to do with being a Marine at that point, because every single one of the legislators in Lansing has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution. Every single one of them, regardless of any prior military service or anything. If you're in government, in fact, if you work in government at all, MCL 15.151 and Article 11, Section 1 of the state constitution in Michigan, those combined together say that you have to take an oath to support the Constitution, even if you're just a volunteer janitor at your local school district on every third Saturday of the month. The law says you have to take an oath to support and defend the U.S. and state constitutions. So we need to remember that. That means even our legislative aides or, secretaries or whomever, They all are required to take an oath of office, and it's not merely just a piece of paper that HR keeps track of.
I like when you remind people that it's your school board members too.
Yes.
Yes.
All the way down to your school board. I mean, we do need to worry about Congress, and this all started with the office of the current former vice president's Ministry on Gun Control. And really, though, we did kind of talk about that all evening tonight, whether people realize it or not, because like he's going to try to go through and infiltrate all of your hometowns and all of your states. And that's what he's promising he's going to do. And they have the money, but we have the power if we're willing to actually assert it. You know,
They have the media too. I wouldn't be surprised if you
Oh, we just lost her.
things that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to do with this. Yeah.
They're going to dump a lot of money. They have money. They have media. They have power. They have guns. But I want to remind people, we have a lot of guns too. We have a lot of power too. Like, they make these pompous statements like, oh, you're not going to do anything to us. We have F-16s. Then they lose an F-35 and are asking people to help them find it, right? It's like these people, some of the stuff that they do, it just comes down to like so many things. Like back in 2020, people would, and I can remember this so well, Katherine, because I had met you around that time and started to become a fan and watch all your stuff. And people would pile into your streams by the hundreds and say, but Katherine, show me where in the Michigan Constitution it says that I have the right to breathe fresh air. And it's like, people need to start asserting themselves more. You don't need to ask the government if you have the right to protect yourself or if you can breathe fresh air, right?
Right. You don't have to prove that you have God-given liberties. In fact, that's the whole point of the 9th Amendment and Article 1, Section 23 of the Michigan State Constitution is to remind the government that our God-given liberties are all protected. And in fact, every single government official, employee, you name it, down to the school janitor, has to support and defend all of those liberties, including the unspoken, unenumerated rights that God gave us. Even if they're not spelled out in the state or federal constitutions, the government still has the duty of supporting and defending those rights and protecting those rights, which includes the obvious of being able to breathe fresh air.
Yes. So stop asking your government for stuff. Start telling your government what to do because they operate at the consent of the governed. A couple
Exactly.
of quick ones. Randy Smith doesn't even live in Michigan, but he said, this is really great. I'm learning a lot. Thank you to all three of you for all you're doing. I see, I'm scrolling through as fast as I can here.
Hey, 2A EDU, is it okay if I invite people to go to my channel to learn more about the Constitution if they're...
Yeah, we're going to do that in 1 second. I was just giving people a couple real quick shout outs. QD said great show. Lori said wonderful show.
I heard she's terrible.
Lori, she's not bad. I don't mind her too much. Hi, Lori. How's it going? Cameron says good night and God bless. So we've been on for 2 hours. There's been
my goodness
discussion, but I know you guys probably got up really early this morning. So I'm going to sign off here in 1 second. Katherine, tell us where we can find you and what you're doing online.
Yeah, so since 2020, guys, everything that I've been doing is all volunteer basis. That means no one's paying me to do any of the work that I'm doing in fighting for freedom. So I could use any of the support that you guys can provide. But at the very least, learn something out of the material that I'm giving and spread the word, share the information. It's restorefreedomkh.com. That's my website. You can see links to all of our social media platforms, but our YouTube channel is youtube.com/restorefreedom. Super easy to find. If you look for Restore Freedom on anything, just do a Google search. You'll find me with Restore Freedom. But check out all the stuff we have. I post all kinds of videos. In fact, I'm going to do something new, and this is going to be especially for 2A EDU, who's heard me talk very long periods of time, many times throughout the last few years. This is going to be a shock, but I'm actually going to only do probably one live stream show a month where I'm actually going to do call-ins. People are actually going to be able to call a phone number, call in and ask questions about the Constitution or whatnot. But my main shows I'm going to do between 1 and 3 a week, where I'm just going to post videos that are no more than 10 minutes long, teaching people about aspects of government or the Constitution. So that's hard. That's hard for me to try to figure out how I can possibly talk about a topic and educate people on it sufficiently in 10 minutes or less. But I'm going to do my best to not sound like the Micro Machines guy when I do it. But anyway, so that's season 3. I just released the first one. I think it was yesterday. So please make sure to check those out. They're so short they even fit on TikTok. I mean, that's how short they are. So anyway, so check them out. It's all about learning about how to empower yourself and hold your government officials accountable to their oath of office. So anyway, restorefreedomkh.com or youtube.com/restorefreedom or Facebook, Restore Freedom, any of them, Restore Freedom, you'll find me.
All right. Well, thank you. Jamie, where are you at where people can reach out to you?
I'm on Facebook, my official state representative website that has a lot of my press releases and some videos, and you can kind of catch up on what I'm doing. The official state rep is repthompson.com. On Facebook, you can, I don't even know what the / thing is, but you can just search State Representative Jamie Thompson. I am on TikTok. I've been trying to, even though I'm not a fan of TikTok, we have a lot of younger generation of people that are watching TikTok and are becoming freedom-loving youngsters. So I'm on TikTok trying to spread the message in Michigan, and on Twitter a little bit. I get really riled up on Twitter, so I don't go on there very much because I've learned to just stop reading some of the stuff that I see because it just makes me too angry.
Oh yeah, I can't read anybody else's stuff on social media. I just try to post the content so I can help.
Yeah, post it up. And you know what? That's a great idea, Catherine, to because we know that we were in a generation where people are getting, 2-minute videos. And if you don't get them into, that first 30 seconds and it's not stimulating, they move on to the next one. So doing those short videos like that, I know it's got to be hard, but I think that's a great idea. So I gab. See, I tend to gab too. I'm always got it.
Yep. And I still have, if anybody is in the middle of a situation, I guess the one thing I didn't mention is my website is chock full of all kinds of other resources. So all kinds of motions and pleadings and briefs and you name it, appellate documents, trial documents, civil, criminal, Michigan, Florida. I don't think I have any of my U.S. Supreme Court stuff on there, but I also run my own website, so you have to bear with me because I don't have a tech team anymore like I did for the Restore Freedom Initiative. But I do have tons of stuff, dozens, if not hundreds of documents that are real live case documents that you can use and copy and paste at will. That's why they're on there. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to simply inform your local representative or your state representative or something like that, or you're actually in court fighting about some sort of right that's being violated, please check out my website and go to the resources tab and grab what you need and use it.
That's awesome. That's very good.
And I'm going to do all the viewers a favor. As soon as we're done here, check the pinned comment. I'm going to put the links to like their sites and socials right there so you guys can get it all afterwards. So
thank you.
You're welcome.
I stayed awake the whole time. Oh, I'm so excited.
I appreciate having you guys tonight. If you don't have any more words, I guess I think it was a good show. Anything else you guys need to say?
Yeah, one thing. So we gave shout out to your wife and you've mentioned your husband, but I do have to say thank you to Mr. Katherine Henry. No, I mean to Mike, my husband, because he's, I think, in the other room watching on the TV. He thinks it's pretty cool. We don't have real TV, so we get to watch stuff like YouTube. And it's always really cool. 2A EDU flashing across our screen. Hey, we know that guy. But I just have to give him a shout out because if it wasn't for him going and working outside of the home, then I couldn't continue doing what I'm doing because we're not getting enough donations to pay for what it costs to do the weekly newsletter or, to pay for the streaming software or, any of the legal books that are behind me, which I haven't updated in the last 2 years now, but any of this stuff, it costs money. And luckily he's my biggest donor. He keeps the things going and he keeps our mortgage paid while I'm fighting for freedom. So thanks, babe.
Teamwork.
Thank you so much, QD. He just came in with a big super chat at the very end and said, awesome guest, thank you. So I appreciate it, dude. So yeah, shout out to Ron, shout out to Mike, shout out to Linda, all of our better halves. And yeah, we're just doing what we're doing here and trying our best. And we need all of you guys to do the same, right?
Amen.
All
Amen.
right, well, I'm going to bail on Michigan here in a couple days. So next time you guys see me live, unless you're on locals, so you'll see me here tomorrow on locals, then you guys are going to see me in Georgia next Friday.
Wait, you're coming 90% of the way, but you're not going to actually visit me?
And then I might come back. I'll do another poll. You guys can decide. Do I move to Georgia?
You're not going anywhere. You're not going to move anywhere. Just
Florida.
Stop the nonsense.
We'll make a vote and you guys can decide, even though I probably won't do what you tell me to do anyway. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching.
Bye, Catherine. Bye. Thank you.
All right, guys, have a good one.